Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we have quite the special car. It's obvious that I am in a pretty modern car. As a matter of fact, it's a car that I think should really be thought of as a ultra performance luxury option for anybody looking for a somewhat affordable extreme luxury sports car. And of course, for me, the answer is always Porsche. We are in a 2015 991 Turbo S, meaning this is the top of the line of the Turbo 991s and of any 911 Turbo that you can technically buy, right? So, what is so special about this car? Well, I am currently in a 580 horsepower all-wheel drive monster with heated and cooled seats, deviated stitching, nice extra additional stuff like sports chrono, which comes standard on this model, carbon ceramic brakes, panoramic moonroof, comfort access, and a full clear bra around the entire car, along with the fact that the car has only 9,000 miles. And all of this could be had for under $140,000. That's right. These types of cars are selling in the $140,000 range. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Man, it's a $140,000 car. What if something goes wrong? That is definitely not an affordable fix. It's not something that you can just cheaply repair or just send to any sort of shop. You really need a specialist to look at these cars. And yes, that is the downside of owning something with pedigree that is this strong and something that is this delicate and high performing. You know, just because it's high performing doesn't mean that it is this super robust type of GMC Denali that I can just take to any shop and, you know, torque it down with impact guns everywhere. No, this car is the type of car that needs very specific torque specs. It needs very specific ways of handling, and it is a car that is delicate. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that it's going to break every 2,000 miles. It's not something that is unreliable. As a matter of fact, these engines are quite bulletproof. However, that is not the Achilles heel that you should be worried about in this car. This car is Achilles. I mean, it's a monster. It takes off just by thinking about it. It absolutely will get out of your hands if you don't know what you're doing. And it will destroy anything that lines up against it, either from a dig or from a highway race. You're talking about a car that you can buy for around $140,000 that will hit 60 in less than 3 seconds. We're talking about a 2.5 to 2.8 0 to 60 time in cars like these nowadays. It's insane. Now, yes, you can say, oh, the new C8 Corvette gets there just as fast and it's, you know, a fraction of the price. Cool. But you also have styrofoam everywhere. It's made of plastic, smells like a boat, and those things are huge. Also, GM likes saying that their transmission is quicker than PDK, but we all know it's not. It's only in very specific parameters and very specific testing that they were able to get numbers that were better than PDK. And that is what its Achilles heel is. This specific example is a 2015 model. What does that mean? Well, it doesn't really mean anything crazy different. It just means that this car came with a steering wheel that doesn't have paddle shifters. Unfortunately, this car came with buttons. Now, that's not a drawback. Really, it doesn't affect the way the car performs. If you are a very driver-oriented driver, though, you will have an issue with this because it's not like I can flip through the gears or downshift like as if I was in a sequential. I have to push buttons to go up a gear and pull them to go down. It's a little bit unnatural in my opinion. It's not like I'm, you know, riding a horse and I'm kind of pulling it back. No. When you're going under braking, all of your momentum and all your weight transfer is going forward. So naturally, in a sequential transmission, my idea is to push down when shifting down. On this gear lever, for example, you have the option of, you know, pulling and pushing, but to shift down, I have to pull. It just feels a little bit unnatural. But then again, if you're buying this car, you definitely have it in your budget to spend the extra $2,000 on a new steering wheel to go ahead and get the actual paddle shifting and program it correctly to function fully. The Achilles heel of the PDK, though, is not the steering wheel. It just happens to be the fact that I personally would never buy a car that is PDK that is over 50,000 miles. Having worked at a Porsche shop, I was able to see the misfortunes that happen with the PDK transmission. It's not common. I will say that it is not a common thing to see a PDK transmission failure. However, when it does fail, it gets extremely pricey very quick. After all, the PDK transmission is the best shifting double clutch automatic that you can get on the market today with a warranty. But because it is the best, it doesn't mean that it's the most affordable. To get to be the best, you have to spend money and you have to have a lot of technology involved. And that involves extremely expensive solenoids, a double clutch system that is very, very expensive to replace when things go wrong and when things go downhill. And if you are in a position where you might have to rebuild your PDK transmission, sometimes it's even cheaper just to buy another one off a used car. Now, quite frankly, that is the only thing that I can come up with that is wrong with this car. There's really nothing else. I have heated and cooled seats. I have magnificent AC, a Bose surround sound system, panoramic sunroof, Bluetooth capabilities. I really have nothing to complain about when I'm in this car. The steering is razor sharp. This car, even though it is much bigger than its predecessors, is still extremely nimble. I feel no issues or worries driving this around any sort of crowded area, especially if I need to maneuver around in traffic. It's super easy to park as well. And of course, what is even the point of having all of these automated sequential automatic transmissions without the power of launch control? And yes, ladies and gentlemen, this car has it. Hence, its 0 to 60 time of under 3 seconds. And then of course, with the carbon ceramic brakes comes the hefty fact that any sort of carbon ceramic brake change will cost you thousands. There's no other way around it. It will cost you thousands. You can take off the carbon ceramics and install steel brakes just to preserve them and then put them back on in brand new condition with 0 miles on them when you go to sell the car, which I do strongly recommend. But honestly, you can't beat braking in carbon ceramic brakes. These brakes are absolutely insane. So much so that it takes a little bit to get used to them when you're not used to driving on carbon ceramics. Once they're warmed up, these things bite like nothing else. Not to keep mentioning horses, but if you've ever been bit by a horse, that's how hard the pads bite down on the disc. Now, can I think of any other car for 140 grand that I would buy? Yeah, I can think of tons of them. You can also buy GT3s for that money. But a GT3 will still break your back at the end of the day. When I get in a GT3 and drive it for a good amount of time, I'm pretty tired. And yes, the manual transmission connects you to the road and it's like no other. But if I'm daily driving something and I really want to have that, power in my daily driver, I would just go turbo. When Porsche manufactured this car and really developed it, they knew what they were doing. Because after all, they've been doing this for over 70 years. They know how to make a car like this control itself and how to handle. I went to the Porsche HQ in Atlanta in January and it was soaked. But that's not the point. The point is, I was in a Turbo S with carbon ceramics in the wet on a racetrack with the factory tires that are on it. It didn't have any upgraded tires or anything, of course. They want to really show you what the car can truly do. And when I tell you I was dizzy from the levels of grip on that car in the wet, I mean it. I almost threw up. Felt very nauseous. Had to take a breather because it's just that good. And even here in Miami, where the roads aren't the most perfect setting, right now I've been going over some railroad tracks, manhole covers and stuff like that. I'm not being beat up at all. My back sweat is completely gone, which is something that is very common in Miami. And it's fantastic to have these heated and cooled seats. Now, obviously, these seats are not going to last 20 years. But also, the type of buyer that buys this car doesn't own it for 20 years. They own it for 2 tops. The type of buyer for this car just wants the top of the line. They want everything there for them. They want it to be, that status symbol almost. And then on top of that, they always end up spending money on a full protective clear bra, either on the front or all around the car, which this car has. And they also usually put wheels and springs and whatnot and just make it look cool to only own it for 2 years, drive it for 300 miles, and then get rid of it. So, if you happen to be lucky enough to find one of those owners that is getting rid of their 911 Turbo S's, buy it. Buy it, keep it for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. If you can find one with an extended warranty, I recommend it even more. It's a fantastic car. I love it. I really do. I'm not being biased towards Porsche, and yes, I have their bracelet on me, and yes, I have a lot of Porsche content on my page, but there's really no substitute. I don't think there will ever be a moment where someone really needs 100% of the power in a Turbo S on the road, but if you ever do need it, It's always there. That's what makes this car fantastic. It goes from being a incredibly luxurious sports car to an absolute bullet train of a weapon in seconds. So, in order to do launch control, step 1, find a safe spot that is completely empty and no one is going to be yelling at you, because this car does not stay quiet when launching it. Step 2, step on the brakes. Step 3, mash the gas. And this thing is stupid fast. Unbelievable. You can get so hurt so fast in this car. Wow. On second thought, if you don't have the type of skills to drive this car and you do have the money, I think you should stay away from it, because this car is just way too much of a temptation to be doing stupid stuff with it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It was an absolute blast, literally, to go ahead and have fun with this car. I had a fantastic time. This car is really, it's honestly an amazing and phenomenal vehicle. These cars are just computers at this point. And you know what? A lot of people would complain, oh, it's a computer, it's no longer connected, it's not about the essence of driving anymore. You're right, you have a point. But this car, I don't think you'd be complaining once you do launch control once. And I can guarantee you that one time can turn into 1,000 and it will not get boring. And you will never get bored of this car. Anyways, thanks for watching. Stay safe, drive safe, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers.